in Mr. Pashupati Advani then of Global Foray, who joins us. Hi, Mr. Advani. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining in. Season's greetings. We haven't chatted in a while, so I hope Diwali was good and the New Year is going to be an absolute cracker. What's your view on the markets, Mr. Advani? The good sentiment is back. People are talking about positivity. Sensex back at 60,000, screaming out for fresh all-time highs on the Nifty. Are you in the camp or are we getting too exuberant?
Well, I am sort of cautiously optimistic. I don't think the market is going to crash out and go down, but I think that, maybe we are slightly ahead of ourselves because there are some structural problems overseas, which I do not believe that we can get out of. So, it's nice to cross 60,000. It's a double century day for the Nifty, and, the bank indices are also doing okay. But, this can't go on forever. But I will say that, the American stock market got hit and now it's coming back with a passion. So, maybe we are following, but let's see what happens. We've got a whole bunch of things happening with the FOMC meeting. We've got the US elections coming up, the midterm elections coming up on November 8th. So there's lots of foreign news, which I think we are not going to be able to insulate ourselves from.
But Mr. Advani, if you had to have a say in the next year, by next Samvad, would you think that we would be 10% higher at least, double-digit returns on the headline index?
Well, I would hope so, bearing in mind that India is the slice of, the flavor of the year again, and people are looking to India to manufacture and to shift some of their, buying to. But as I said, what I'm seeing, just to say in America, I'm seeing like housing prices are coming down. We haven't heard of that here. Real estate still seems to be doing well. But if it's happening in the US after a long time, simply because mortgage rates have gone up, there's no reason why those same models won't get transferred here, because there's a lot of investors that look at how things behave in the US and try to mimic it over here. So in America, private equity is drying up. Maybe it'll dry up here. We still have some people who have powder, but there is a lag. Now, how long that lag is, whether it's 3 months or 6 months or maybe even a year, we'll get away with. In which case, our markets will be great.
Markets will be great. Whether we don't know whether it'll be great a year from now or not, but currently it is great because you've come as a good luck charm. Just as we speak, the Nifty has hit that 18,000 mark on the frontline index, 214 points higher as we speak. We were expecting a 3 p.m. move. A 3 p.m. move has come, and it's come at on the way up. For most part of today's trading session, the Nifty was holding on to the gap up that we got overnight, and now as we speak, Mount 18,000 is here, just about 30.35 points here or there. But for all practical purposes, we are at 18,000. Will be interesting to see whether this sustains or not. And could there be a last 30-minute flourish on the way up by some of these call writers or not? But that's about the near term. But, Mr. Advani, back home, someone is either bullish on IT or financials. Financials seems to be a bit of a consensus trade now. But I'm looking at your views and you don't like either financials or IT. What explains that and what do you like instead?
Well, as I said, I'm just looking at America and saying, there are enough investors out there that look at what's happening in America and try to put the trend here. So you've got rates that are going up, okay? With rates going up, first of all, you will have pressure on people to pay. We don't have as much of a problem because most of our loans are fixed rate. Versus in America, a lot of the loans are floating rates. So when the Fed increases by 0.75, their rates go up. So that is beginning to hurt in the US. The IT sector in the US, which is FANGs, are beginning to lay off people because they're not getting the revenues. People are advertising less. Now, I'm not saying that our IT in India is equal to FANGs, but because it's the same kind of broad sector, I think that there's going to be pressure on IT stocks. Their business model is changing. In America, people are replacing those Indian Infosys, TCS, Wipro jobs with locals because there are locals now looking for work. And they're also trying to not import as much. So those pressures are there. And I think that, I am a contrarian in that case. And I've actually been smacked in the face as a result of it because I'm actually a contrarian on financials as well as on IT. And the rest of the market seems to be against me. So it's like I'm getting carried out for being this way.
Okay, all right. Mr. Advani, the other interesting one out there is you like steel. That's a bit of a minority camp, actually. I think around 12 to 18 months ago, everyone used to call me up and educate me and tell me why they like steel and the various reasons, and this time it's going to be different. Steel prices have come off considerably, and today in China as well, prices are under some pressure. But my guess is that maybe you're betting on things bottoming out, and that's why you like steel?
See, the steel folks have had a great year, and they've really made a lot of money. So hopefully they're able to reinvest it and take care of all their debts and things like that. And that certainly we've seen that in the prices. See, my thing is, we're going back to core business. There's real estate to be. I'm assuming that the spending is going to come majorly driven by the government. Real estate projects have to be finished. They're not all government projects, but there is RERA in every state pushing to complete them. There's also a lot of road building going on, which is requiring steel, and port building and other infrastructure. So you are seeing some of that. So I just feel that the demand is there. Government had put a restriction on exports that I believe is also getting softened. So that will also help the companies at least be able to move the material. And you mentioned China, but do we really know what's going on in China? I mean, they're breaking buildings the last time I saw. They're cracking thousands and thousands of square feet of real estate because they have no use for it. So they'll crash them and build them again. So I don't know what the hell is going on in China, and it's an enigma for most people, including us. So I just feel that there is a basic need for steel in India. We're definitely not going to import any, and we have domestic quantity, and all the big players are able to fulfill. So why not? And likewise, cement. I mean, these are the people that are required for actual infrastructure growth. Nigel?
Right, we take that point, Mr. Advani. As we speak, just keep an eye out on a couple of stocks. However, Supreme Industries is the one which is up 6% as we speak. Reported their numbers today. We had a conversation with the management as well. They're confident of 9,000 crore worth sales with margins between 12.5 odd percent. But importantly, they believe that PVC resin prices have now bottomed out. You also like the specialty chemical space. What in particular do you like in that, Mr. Advani? I mean, I know you're not at liberty to take names, but some segments, if you could give us a sense.
See, there are inquiries coming in from companies outside, not for APIs, but for pre-API chemicals. So those are the chemical companies which are doing very well. And then anything that's in industrial chemicals is also doing well. Another sector that I mentioned that I haven't mentioned, but I'm also quite comfortable with is the logistics sector, because I think that our roads are getting better, our infrastructure is getting better, and now things are going to move, and there'll be some efficiencies there. So I expect the large logistics players to do well. So, what I'm saying is that you've got these companies that have the chemicals that the world wants, and those are the ones that, if they export and even locally, they are the sort of the icing on the cake, and those are the ones
on logistics. When you say that you're positive on logistics, is it the large rail logistics that you're talking about, road logistics, or maybe some of these express e-com plays that we've had, which are recent listings? Because we've seen a sharp dip in names like Delivery. We had numbers coming in from Transport Corp as well as Blue Dart over the weekend. Both of them showed some weakness in the margins with some positive triggers going forward as well. So Delivery is at the low point. We have Transport Corp at the low point. We spoke with the management, and we also have Blue Dart, which is currently sitting at a cut of almost 5 odd percent. Could you be a little more specific in what kind of logistics do you like?
So the last mile delivery space, according to me, is very overcrowded, and there's a huge unorganized sector over there. Okay, and in that you can talk about delivery, but you can also talk about Zomato and things like that, which are doing food deliveries. It just does not make sense because they're charging a significant portion of the margin that the actual vendor is charging. So whether you're delivering vegetables or fruits or small packages, you're actually eating into that margin because the cost of that is high. So one of them has to crack, and because it's easier to tell the delivery person, we're only going to give you 20 rupees instead of 40 rupees, and they still need the business because they have the people, that sector is getting hurt and hurt badly. I'm talking about the real logistics where you're trying to move. There's a shortage of cars. Most people don't have, the showrooms are empty, so those cars have to be transported. The parts of the cars have to be transported around the country. So the big ones that you mentioned, like Gati and Transport Corp and All Cargo, they're the other players who sort of will benefit from that. Again, it's a lag. And again, we are going through some kind of consolidation. But if you've seen what happened in Diwali, there's no white goods. People are buying white goods like crazy. People are buying cars like crazy. So, that stuff has to get sorted, and there has been definitely some, optimization of resources for all these companies. And so you're seeing it in the prices, that they'll continue to do well.
All right, Mr. Advani, we spoke about delivery in the last minute or so. We briefly touched upon Zomato as well. The new age themes, November 2021, everyone was talking about them. And I think that's when the market started getting overheated. Now, November 2022, they're again in focus because a lot of the lock-ins are expiring. And some part of the street is getting nervous, about the supply. Will you be interested in any of these businesses? Some of them, they had huge subscription, huge demand. They went up, case in point being a Nykaa, and it's back to around 1,100. Yeah. Would you be interested at this price?
So I would call them the big four, which is Nykaa, Zomato, Policy Bazaar, and Paytm. That all the IPOs came together, and they, as you said, all the lock-ins are expiring now. There is obviously pressure on these companies because the players who have been the lock-in players, again, most of that money was foreign-driven. Okay, it was the Tiger Global buying the pipes to make sure that the issue goes through. So, are these good business models? I perceive, in the order that I would buy them, I would say Paytm, Nykaa, Zomato, and Policy Bazaar. Of those four, I mean, just to take new age businesses. Paytm, the only minus is that it's got Chinese ownership, so our Indian government is not happy with that. But it has all the back end in place because both Tencent and Alibaba have it, and they are owners behind the scenes. Food delivery is here to stay, but now people are saving money, and there's a bit of a belt tightening, so people are going out and bringing it. So there's a little bit less coming to them. But and also they've had some issues with trying to steal the clients and get their own kitchens to be able to deliver the food. So that's not been doing well. Nykaa, there are now other competitors coming into the space. Reliance is coming into the space, and the Modi Care has been in the space with a slightly lower end product. So they're fulfilling a niche, so that is going to see pressure. And Policy Bazaar, there are lots of fintechs and lots of insurance people in the space, whereas Policy Bazaar was the first, and the insurance space is not sticky, so people can pull people. So those are that's my thought. But yes, they all have sustainable business models. They all have competing with the unorganized sector, and as the government enforces GST better, they will thrive. But it's probably going to take a year or two before these things settle.
Take your point, Mr. Advani, and rather bold of you to have Paytm as the top of the big four list, given the price performance suggests otherwise. In the big four, the Paytm stock has actually been the most loss-making for investors. In fact, listed below the issue price, and from there itself, it's fallen about 70% as against others which are doing better. In fact, talking about the new companies itself, just pull up the intraday chart of Nykaa. It's taken off like a rocket, almost up 18% as we speak. So there's something which really is going on out there. We need to try and figure out what's taking place in Nykaa, up 18% as we speak. Of course, it's been an underperformer. So let's see what happens. Maybe, some of those shorts are coming in for auction under the SLB, etc. Or not. We'll perhaps have to monitor that. It's a cash stock. So we'll monitor Nykaa as we move along. And also, before we slip into a short break, just keep an eye out on the intraday chart of United Spirits. A big move is what we're seeing out there. It's still Monday, but remember last week was a truncated week, and we're moving towards the Christmas stretch of this year, the third quarter. Let's see how that comes about. Third quarter of the financial year, of course, we will monitor as consumption and the situation in the spirits place takes place up at the high point of trade. Let's take a short break. On the other side, we'll, as always, get you buy today, sell tomorrow ideas coming in from our technical experts.